You think you're here by accident? That everything you've crawled through, cried through, bled through, just happened to lead you to this exact moment. No. That kind of luck doesn't exist in a world this brutal. Something fought for you. Something clawed through darkness you couldn't see, pulled strings in rooms you were never invited into, shut mouths that tried to curse your name, and you're still wondering if you matter. They thought pain was the end of you. Cute. As if agony doesn't whisper secrets the world's too scared to say out loud. People scream when they're hurt, but the real ones, they learn to listen. You see, when everything breaks, something hidden wakes up. Behind the crack, behind the blood, behind the silence, something ancient starts to breathe. That version of you before the suffering, oh, they were soft, unfinished, unaware. But the one crawling out after the fires, after the betrayals, after being buried under expectations and masks and sweet little lies, now that one has purpose tattooed into their bones, because nothing grows in comfort. But look at what rises when the world is watching you die. That's not just survival, that's divine performance. People don't get it. They look at you and wonder why you're so strange, why you don't fit in their plastic molds. It's because you were never meant to. You weren't called to sit at their tables, you were called to flip them over. The ones who hurt the most usually carry the loudest purpose, but most never find it. They drown in the pain instead of asking what the pain is trying to say. But you're different, aren't you? You kept going, with your heart in pieces, with the storm screaming louder than your thoughts, and somehow that kept you pure, kept you dangerous, kept you chosen. You were moved like a chess piece, and you didn't even know the game was happening. You thought you were losing when really the king was clearing the board. Every setback, a setup. Every failure, a recalibration. Every tear, ink for the next page. You thought the silence meant you were alone, but it just meant the architect was working. See, God doesn't shout in chaos. He whispers. And only those deep in the pain can hear him clearly. Congratulations, you passed the volume test. While everyone else chased noise, you were being trained to find peace in destruction. The ones who betrayed you, assigned. The ones who betrayed you, assigned. The ones who walked away, released. The opportunities you thought you missed, dodged bullets, not blessings. But you couldn't see it then. You were too busy bleeding, too busy asking why the world hated you. And now you know. It didn't hate you. It feared what you'd become if you ever healed. But guess what? You're healing. And that scares everything that tried to stop you. You didn't break. You bent. You twisted. You morphed into something unkillable. So next time you look in the mirror, don't just see the scars. See the strategy. You're not a mistake. You're not forgotten. You're the result of a fight you didn't even see. Something higher went to war just to get you to this moment. Through the depression, through the loss, through the shame, guilt, confusion, silence, through all of it. Just so you'd finally understand who you are, not weak, not broken, but built. And whether you believe it yet or not doesn't even matter anymore, because the war already proved it for you. They laugh at the quiet ones. They mock the slow risers, the soft speakers, the overthinkers who pause before they move. They think silence means weakness. They think not reacting is submission. Fools. They don't know that silence is where storms gather their rage. That stillness is where weapons sharpen. That quiet doesn't mean nothing's happening. It means something serious is coming. The world taught you to scream to be seen, to rush so you don't fall behind. But the real ones, the chosen ones, they sit, they listen, they wait. Not because they're scared, but because they're calculating. The most dangerous moves are the ones no one sees coming. You weren't born to follow their tempo. You were never meant to fit their calendar. Everyone's running, chasing, grabbing, performing. But you were delayed, held back, paused. And they thought that meant denied. No, you were preserved. Kept in a different room while the others scrambled for crumbs. And while they danced for validation, you were being stripped of illusions, piece by piece, until there was nothing left but truth. The delay wasn't punishment, it was preparation. A time release calling that needed your patience, not your panic. Most people collapse in the waiting room. They can't handle the silence between prayers and answers. They quit, pivot, jump ship. But you stayed. Even when it hurt. Even when your hands were empty and your heart was loud. Even when you couldn't explain why you were still believing. That right there, that's power. That's faith most people never touch. Because they only trust what they can see. You trusted the invisible, the tug, the whispers, the odd timing of closed doors and late arrivals. That kind of trust makes the heavens move. People forgot you, overlooked you, passed you up, and you smiled. You waited. You acted like it didn't bother you, but deep down, it tore pieces off your soul. Still, you didn't scream. You didn't rage. You just stood still while something sacred rearranged the entire board for you. And now, it's your turn. The delay is flipping. The detour is becoming the destination. And the very thing they mocked you for, the waiting, that's what made you unshakable. They wanted you desperate. They wanted you rushing, panicking, proving yourself, but you didn't fall for it. You let the time do its work. And now the ones who ran ahead look exhausted, while you're just getting started. You didn't miss the train. You are the train. The one that arrives when it's meant to. The one that doesn't stop for the unprepared. The one that's not late, just right on time for something bigger than convenience. There's a version of you they haven't seen yet. One that's been slowly, painfully, precisely sculpted in secret. That version doesn't need applause, doesn't need the crowd, doesn't even need a reason to rise. It just does. Because when you've waited this long, when you've held on through storms, most people don't survive. You don't come out the same. You come out transformed. Not by force, but by fire. Not by speed, but by survival. Now every delay makes sense. Every no was a shield. Every setback was a setup. Every lonely night was a meeting with the divine. You thought nothing was happening while you waited, but now you can feel it, can't you? The shift, the pull, the gathering of something heavy in the air. You're not the same as you were when this started, and the world isn't ready for what that means. They don't get it, do they? They think the fight was random. That you just ended up here by luck or chance or some cosmic roll of the dice. They weren't there when you were hanging by a thread, when your mind was playing tricks on you, when you were staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. wondering if anyone would even notice if you disappeared. They didn't see what it cost you to smile in public, to keep showing up, to pretend everything was fine while everything inside was falling apart. They don't know the war it took to still be standing. But heaven does. God does. And what they call survival, He calls strategy. You were born into a battlefield, and you didn't even realize it at first. You thought your anxiety was weakness. You thought your fears were failures. You thought your tears made you broken. Nah, that was the smoke from the war zone. That was the fire your soul was walking through. The scars you carry aren't signs of defeat. They're proof of the assignment. You weren't being attacked because you were chosen. You're not carrying trauma. You're carrying the evidence that you were worth fighting for. People love to quote purpose, destiny, calling. Sounds nice on paper, doesn't it? But no one talks about what it feels like to be called. No one tells you that being chosen sometimes feels like being cursed. You lose people. You lose places. You lose parts of yourself. And while everyone else is building lives that look good on the outside, you're being gutted from the inside, rewired, stripped, tested. And all you can ask is, why me? But you already know. Somewhere deep down, past the hurt, past the doubt, you know you weren't meant to live like everyone else. See, the enemy doesn't waste time on the average. He doesn't stalk the ones who are no threat. But you were born dangerous. And he knew it before you did. So he tried to drown you in noise, in pain, in distractions that looked like comfort. He tried to convince you that your voice didn't matter, that your thoughts were too much, that your soul was too heavy. And you almost believed it. Almost. But someone kept pulling you back. You've lost things you can't talk about. You've been through seasons no one clapped for. You've battled demons no one will ever thank you for defeating. But don't you see? That's the point. The darkness knew who you were before you did. And God had to step in, had to intervene, had to fight for you in ways you'll never fully understand. Because if he didn't, you wouldn't have made it. That's the truth. You weren't lucky. You were rescued. The hands that formed you didn't let go when it got hard. They held tighter. They shielded you from bullets you didn't see, from enemies that smiled in your face. Every breakdown you survived was a battle won on your behalf. You don't have to carry the weight of proving why you're still here. Just breathe. That breath is proof enough that something bigger refused to let you go. You didn't just survive all that by yourself. Something holy had your back the whole damn time. They told you to trust the process. Cute, like that process didn't nearly kill you. Like that process didn't have you curled up in the dark, clenching your fists so tight you left nail marks in your own skin. See, they like to skip to the glow-up part. They don't want to talk about the raw, the ugly, the unfiltered parts of the journey where nothing makes sense and every step forward feels like you're dragging your own corpse uphill. But you felt it. That pressure wasn't just pressure. That was purpose disguised as pain. You had moments where silence screamed louder than any crowd. Days where your thoughts were louder than your prayers. Nights where the ceiling fan spun faster than your hope. But you didn't quit. Not because it was easy, not because you felt strong, but because something inside refused to die. You walked through fire while everyone else danced around it. You didn't get to skip the furnace, you became it. You became the kind of person who makes pain nervous. And that terrified people. People saw you go quiet and assumed you were done. Nah, you were incubating. You were learning how to speak fire without choking on smoke. While they scrolled, you were sculpted. While they mocked, you were molded. You became too deep for shallow circles, too heavy for lightweight connections. You outgrew places that tried to shrink you. Not because you were better, but because you were being built differently. Purpose doesn't blend in. It bruises first. You ever notice how life only started hitting harder when you started waking up? That wasn't coincidence. The moment you stopped numbing yourself, the punches landed louder. The moment you started listening to that voice inside, everything around you tried to mute it. The game was never fair, but it was always fixed in your favor. Because no matter what tried to bury you, you kept growing through the cracks. You're not broken, you're blooming out of chaos. and you wonder why they don't clap for you, why they look uncomfortable when you speak, why they can't make eye contact when you enter the room. It's because you remind them of what they gave up on. You mirror their abandoned fire. You represent every risk they were too scared to take, every fight they never showed up for. You didn't choose this. You were marked for it. And it shows. It shows in the way you carry storms without spilling on anyone. It shows in how your silence says more than their noise. They only love your story when it's over. But yours isn't done, not even close. The same storms that tried to drown you taught you how to swim upstream. The same pressure that tried to crush you is now what makes your voice shake rooms. And no, you're not here by mistake. You were dragged through hell for a reason, because some people break in the fire and others become it. They laughed when you spoke dreams into a world built to keep people asleep. They smirked when you said you felt something bigger, something heavier in your bones. They called it delusion. They called it fantasy. Because that's what people do when they don't understand the language of the soul. When their lives are scripted and you start ad-libbing, they panic. They don't know what to do with someone who doesn't follow the map, someone who hears a drum beat that isn't theirs, someone who walks toward chaos with their eyes wide open. You weren't born to be polite. You weren't sent here to color inside the lines or beg for permission to matter. You were designed for disruption, wired for war. You know how I know, because you feel it. In every space that feels too small, in every job that feels like a cage, in every room where your silence screams louder than their applause, you feel it. The itch, the pull, that uncomfortable knowing that you didn't come all this way just to blend in, and yet that's exactly what they want you to do. They want your fire in a bottle, your light on a dimmer switch. They want your truth with edits, your power with mute buttons. But you weren't built to be quiet. You weren't built to be liked. You were built to shake the ground when you walk, to crack ceilings with your words. And when people can't contain you, they try to shame you. They point, they whisper. They question your sanity, because standing tall in a room full of bent backs makes you look insane. You've been underestimated so many times you almost believed it. You've played small so often you forgot you were a giant. But you're starting to remember, aren't you? That twitch in your chest, that edge in your voice, that's your power waking up from hibernation. That's your purpose stretching its limbs after being caged for too long. You've been loyal to limits that were never yours to begin with, trained to fear your own roar. And now it's time to unlearn all of it. You don't need another affirmation. You don't need another motivational quote. You need to get mad. Not at the world, at the lie. The lie that said you're too young, too old, too late, too different. The lie that made you shrink every time you felt too much, knew too much, dreamed too loud. Get mad at the silence that followed your truth. At the applause that only came when you played dumb. Get mad enough to move, to break, to rebuild without the blueprint. They made you feel like being different was a curse. Like your sensitivity was weakness, like your ambition was arrogance. But what if it's the opposite? What if your difference is the point? What if your pain was a setup for your rise? What if the reason you never fit in is because you weren't meant to? They don't make legends in the mold of the masses. They don't carve warriors out of comfort. You weren't born to be normal. You were born to disturb the peace, to raise questions, to flip tables. They're watching you closer than you think, not because they care, not because they're rooting for you, but because your existence threatens the little illusion they built around themselves. You walk in unapologetically with that strange light in your eyes, and suddenly their masks start to slip. You speak, and the walls they crafted with lies begin to shake. It's not your success that scares them. It's your survival. It's the fact that after all that fire, you didn't burn out. You started glowing. They remember when you had nothing. When you were down there, crawling, gasping for a breath the world didn't want you to have. They saw you with your back against the wall, bleeding from battles no one asked about. And they waited. Oh, how they waited. Waited for you to give up, to snap, to disappear. But you didn't. You stayed. You endured. And worse, for them you got stronger. You started walking like the pain didn't paralyze you, talking like the wounds were wisdom. Now they're confused. They thought the storm would drown you, not baptize you. They expected the silence to suffocate you, not sharpen your senses. But here you are, breathing in chaos like oxygen, dancing through destruction like it's home. Because somewhere along the way you realized nothing breaks you unless you let it. And that truth, that makes you dangerous. That's what they can't control. That's why they whisper behind your back, throw shade in the form of concern, keep their distance like you carry something contagious. They keep trying to find the flaw in your armor, but they don't realize the cracks are part of the design. You didn't come here to pretend, you came here to shake foundations, and that makes you a problem. A walking contradiction. Quiet, but loud. Calm, but volatile. Humble, but unstoppable. You're not what they expect. You're not even what you used to be. And that evolution, that's what's got them trembling. They call it arrogance. They call it ego. But deep down, they know what it is. Power. The kind that doesn't beg. The kind that doesn't beg. The kind that doesn't kneel. The kind that rises from ruins and rebuilds empires from ash. You didn't just survive, you transformed. And now your presence alone is a sermon. Your story, a weapon. Your voice, a siren for every soul still sleeping in their own self-doubt. They want to unsee you, but they can't. You're the scar on their memory, the glitch in their system. The echo that keeps coming back louder each time they try to forget. Funny thing about people, they only listen when they think they've got time. As long as the clock's still ticking, they believe they can push it, stretch it, bargain with it. But what happens when there's no more tomorrow to hide behind? When every breath feels heavier because it could be the last? That's when the noise in their head gets real quiet, and the words they've been ignoring start screaming. It's not a warning anymore. It's desperation, clawing at the edges of your mind, trying to pull you towards something before the door slams shut forever. Time, time's a slippery little thing. Everyone thinks they've got a pocket full of it, jingling around like loose change they can spend whenever they feel like it. They stroll through their days, wasting minutes like candy wrappers, never realizing each one was worth more than gold. But here's the punchline. When the pile's running low, you can't buy more. No deals, no favors, no sweet, talking your way into another sunrise. And when that moment comes, When you finally feel the cold breath of the clock on your neck, you realize time was never your friend. It's been stalking you from the start. People love to say, "I'll do it tomorrow." Tomorrow's their safety net, their excuse, their lullaby. But the second you take tomorrow away, you see the panic in their eyes. They start grasping at scraps, replaying all the little moments they tossed aside, like they'd get a million more. That's when it hits them. They were living in debt, borrowing seconds without ever thinking about the bill. And oh, when that bill shows up, there's no polite little reminder. It's a hammer, smashing through the illusion you've built around yourself. Time doesn't negotiate. It doesn't pity you. Doesn't slow down because you've just realized how much you've wasted. It doesn't care if you're ready, if you've made peace, if you've tied up all those messy loose ends in your life. When it's done with you, it's done. And here's the cruel part. It never tells you the deadline. It lets you wander in the dark, guessing, hoping, pretending you've got years left when maybe you've only got hours. It's funny how brave people are when they think they've got time. They postpone. They ignore the voice telling them to act. But the instant they believe the clock's about to run out, they move. Not because they suddenly care more, but because fear sharpens the edges of reality. The colors get brighter. The air gets heavier. Every second starts to taste different. You can feel the weight of each heartbeat, like it's pounding out the final seconds of a countdown you can't hear, but somehow you know it's there. And the thing is, time doesn't shout. It doesn't need to. It just keeps walking, step by step, closer and closer, until you can feel it standing right behind you. Most people never even turn around to look. They're too busy convincing themselves they've got one more day, one more hour, one more chance. But deep down, they know. They've always known. Regret, now that's a fascinating little poison. It doesn't kill you all at once. No, that'd be too merciful. It drips into you, slow and steady, until it's swimming in your blood. You don't notice it at first. You laugh, you talk, you keep moving. But somewhere inside, the sting has already begun. And the best part, you brood it yourself. Every choice you didn't make, every word you swallowed, every chance you let slip through your fingers, those are the ingredients. You're the chef and the customer, serving yourself the bitterest dish on the menu. It's strange how people like to imagine regret as something far off, like a bad storm on the horizon they'll never actually walk into. But regret doesn't come with thunder and lightning. It sneaks in quietly, curling up in the corners of your mind, waiting for the right moment to sink its teeth in. Maybe it's when you're alone in the dark. Maybe it's when you see someone living the life you could have had if you just acted. Or maybe it's when you hear that door slam shut for the last time, and you realize you never get the chance to open it again. People think they can live without regret if they just play it safe. Safety, the most dangerous little lie you can tell yourself. Because safety isn't living, it's hiding. And when you hide, life goes on without you. You wake up one day, and all the roads you could have taken are gone, replaced by walls you built with your own 2 hands. And there's no way back. You're trapped inside the very cage you swore would protect you. That's when regret leans in close and whispers, "I told you so." You see, regret doesn't care about excuses. You can say you weren't ready, that the timing wasn't right, that you were waiting for a sign. But here's the truth. You had the moment, and you let it bleed out right in front of you. And no matter how many times you replay it in your head, no matter how many ways you imagine changing it, reality stays the same. The moment's gone. The chance is dead. You can't resuscitate it, no matter how hard you try. It's almost funny, almost, that people only start to understand the value of a moment once it's behind them. They walk past treasures every day without looking twice. But the second those treasures are locked away forever, suddenly they're priceless. Suddenly they'd do anything to turn the clock back. But the clock doesn't turn. And regret smiles, pulls up a chair, and makes itself comfortable. Because it knows it's not leaving. Not tomorrow, not next year, not ever. Temptation. That shiny little itch in the back of your mind that keeps scratching until you either give in or go mad. It doesn't shout. No, it whispers, soft, sweet, like it's doing you a favor. Just one more taste, it says. One more look, one more step. One more little push over the edge. And you believe it because you want to believe it. You tell yourself you're still in control, that you're just testing the water. But before you know it, you're not testing anymore. You're drowning. Funny thing about temptation, it never shows up wearing a warning label. No horns, no flashing red lights. No, it dresses itself up in exactly what you've been craving. It knows your flavor. It knows how to wrap itself in the kind of packaging you can't resist. It's not here to fight you head on. It's here to make you hand over the keys yourself. And you do. Oh, you do it with a smile, thinking you're making the choice. But deep down, the choice has already been made for you. Temptation doesn't work alone either. It's got friends, desire, greed, pride. They all take turns, poking and prodding you in just the right spots until your resistance cracks. And when it does, you don't even hear the snap. You convince yourself you're still the one pulling the strings, when really you've been dancing on invisible wires from the moment it caught your attention. That's the trick. It never needs to force you. It just needs to get you close enough to lean in on your own. And here's the best part. Temptation knows your memory is short. You'll remember the thrill, the sweetness, the rush, but the price. That always fades in your mind. So the next time it comes knocking, you'll open the door even faster. You'll forget the mess it left behind last time, the scars it carved into you. You'll forget the sinking feeling in your gut when you realized you traded something priceless for something worthless. And temptation will smile because it's counting on that forgetfulness. It feeds on it. It's not always about doing something wrong either. Sometimes temptation is just about taking the easy road instead of the right one. You tell yourself it's harmless. You tell yourself it's temporary. You tell yourself you'll make it up later. But later has a nasty habit of turning into never. And before you know it, you've built your whole life on shortcuts, on compromises, on little, just this once, moments that stack up until you can't see the ground beneath you anymore. The cruelest thing, temptation will make you think you can stop whenever you want, that you can walk away, no problem. It lets you believe you've got the leash in your hands, when in reality, it's the one walking you. And you won't notice the collar around your neck until you try to run and find out it's been there the whole time. Power, it's such a beautiful little illusion. Everyone thinks they want it. Everyone thinks they can handle it. They imagine themselves sitting on the throne, giving orders, pulling strings like some grand puppeteer. But here's the punchline. Power is never really yours. Oh no, it's borrowed, rented, dangled in front of you like a treat. And the moment you start thinking you own it, that's when it slips right out of your fingers. See, power doesn't change you. It just takes off the mask. It shows the world what you've been hiding all along. That little bit of greed, that thirst for control, that desperate need to be seen, respected, feared. Power shines a spotlight on it and says, "Go ahead. Show them who you really are." And you will. Not because you're forced, but because deep down, you've been waiting for the permission. The funny thing is, power isn't just about ruling over others. Sometimes it's about knowing you can break someone without lifting a finger. Just a word, a glance, a silence held a little too long, and suddenly, they're dancing exactly how you want them to. It's intoxicating, isn't it? That rush of knowing the room shifts when you enter, that conversations pause, that people adjust themselves in your presence. But here's the trick. It's not respect they're giving you. It's fear. And fear is a currency that burns fast. Now, people with real power, they don't shout. They don't need to. They whisper. And the world bends closer to hear. They know that the loudest person in the room is usually the weakest. True control comes from not showing your full hand, from making others wonder just how far your reach goes. Let them guess. Let them imagine you've got eyes everywhere, ears in every corner. Their paranoia will do half your work for you. But there's a cost. Oh yes, there's always a cost. The higher you climb, the more the air thins. Friends become liabilities. Trust turns into a dangerous gamble. Every smile hides a knife, and you start looking over your shoulder, because deep down, you know someone out there wants the same power you've got, and they're willing to do to you exactly what you did to get here. The hunter becomes the hunted, and the cruelest joke. The more power you have, the more you realize how fragile it is. One bad move, one misplaced word, one moment of weakness, and the whole tower you've built comes crashing down. You can spend years building it and lose it in seconds. That's the secret most people can't stomach. Power isn't about holding on forever. It's about knowing how to use it before it uses you. Loyalty people like to dress it up, make it sound noble, pure, unshakable. They throw the word around like it's a badge of honor, like it means something permanent. But the truth, Loyalty is just another kind of transaction. It's not carved in stone. It's written in chalk, and the rain is always coming. People aren't loyal to you. They're loyal to what you give them. Security, validation, opportunity. Maybe a little slice of the dream they could never build on their own. They're loyal to how you make them feel. And the moment those feelings change, so does their loyalty. Watch closely. You'll see it in their eyes before it happens. That flicker, that hesitation, that subtle pause before they say your name. It's the moment they start calculating whether you're still worth the trouble. And here's the beauty of it. Everyone swears they'll never betray you, right up until the moment they do. Sometimes it's loud, dramatic, knives-out betrayal, but most of the time, it's quieter, softer. They just stop showing up the same way. Their yes starts to sound less certain. They start keeping little secrets. And then one day they're gone. Not because they hated you, but because they found a better deal. Oh, and don't think for a second that you're different, that you're above it. You've done it too. We all have. You've smiled at someone while your mind was already halfway out the door. You've promised forever and meant it for about 5 minutes. It's not evil, it's survival. Loyalty is easy when the sun's shining. The real test comes in the storm. But that's where the game gets interesting. If you understand what really drives people, you can shape their loyalty, not with grand speeches or empty promises, but with leverage. Make it costly for them to leave. Make it dangerous to turn their back. Give them just enough to feel indebted, but not enough to feel free. And always make sure they believe walking away would hurt them more than staying. Still, you can't hold everyone forever. Some will slip through your fingers, no matter how tight you grip. Some will smile as they twist the knife. And when they do, don't waste time crying over it. Study it. Learn from it. Figure out what they saw that made them think they could win without you. Then make sure no one else ever sees the same thing. Because in the end, loyalty isn't about trust. It's about alignment. As long as their path runs parallel to yours, they'll stick around. The moment those paths start to split, they'll choose themselves every time. And maybe that's the most important thing to remember. You're not keeping people loyal to you. You're keeping them loyal